Good morning, everyone. My name is Lucille Karatzis, and I'm with the TLC program. And today on our Ask TLC, our topic is love relationships in later life. And I'd like to welcome our speakers today, Jim Deutch and Marion Montecalvo. Both of them have been with TLC. Jim has been with us since the beginning as one of the founding members, and Marion recently retired as our treasurer. And they are going to share their thoughts and experience about love relationships in later life. So I turn it to you, Jim.
Well, thank you very, very much. What Mary and I are going to do today is share a true love story with you. And we know it's true because it's about us. Now, Marion will talk first. And as the old college professor, I'll go ahead and share some principles based on what Marion shared with you. The principles or rules or beliefs that guide one's personal behavior. And I'll show you what I mean after Marianne shares her story with you. Then afterwards, I'll talk about my relationship with her and put some principles to that. And afterwards, we want to hear from the audience. You guys are the smart ones, people, we get up there and we talk, but the smart people are the ones who are looking in and learning something. So we'll make that as our final destination. You had Lou, you had a slide up there.
You want me to put it back up?
Put that slide back up, because you showed this to me a little while back, and I really, really like this. It's let me read it to you. It says, "I may not be your first love, first kiss, first sight, or first to date, but I just want to be your last everything." And that's kind of true when you find love in the 70s and 80s. So I thought I'd share that with you. And Lou, thank you for finding it. Well, Marianne, I'm going to turn it over to you. And afterwards, I'll chime in. But the stage is all yours.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm Marion, as Jim mentioned, and I would like to tell you about how Jim and I met. I was devastated losing my husband after 53 years of marriage. Going through the grieving process is extremely difficult. As time passed, I realized I had to continue my life as I healed. In order to not be alone, I attended a few singles groups in the villages. My goal was to find activities such as day trips, plays, golf groups. I was not looking for love, but what these groups offered. In my car one day, I was listening to the village radio station. There was an announcement about a group that sounded extremely active. It caught my interest. The first meeting I attended is where I met Jim. He welcomed me to the meeting, and I admired his great personality and his dedication helping people through tough times. During our conversation, we discovered that we had a lot in common and started dating. On one of those dates, Jim walked me to my car and kissed me. During my drive home, I felt extremely guilty, as if I was cheating on my deceased husband. As time went on, close to a year, we enjoyed being with each other and fell in love. and decided to make a lifetime commitment to each other. And that's my story of how I met this wonderful man, Jim Deutch.
Wow, maybe I should stop while I'm ahead.
No, you're fine.
Uh, let me put on my professor's hat and give you a couple of principles, because I think principles are the things that takes a good story and gives you something to really live by. You know, unless you've really been there, you really don't know what it's like to lose a partner. I think that so many times in my younger life, I thought I knew. It wasn't until I lost my own wife that I realized that there's a difference between knowing and actually having lived that experience. So one of the things I want to tell you is never say to a person who's lost someone, I know how you feel, because you really don't know how that person feels. Like, I do know how it feels to lose a spouse after 53 years. I don't know what it's like to lose a child. So you got to keep your credibility going and empathize the loss, but don't ever tell anyone you know how they really feel unless you do, because you've gone through it. Marion mentioned that she was out to continue her life, that she wanted to do more than just exist. So she set up a plan to go out and find activities. Now, that's the mentality of a very strong and healthy person. When you lose someone, you can't just cloister yourself. You've got to go out. You can still do your work of grieving, but getting out there and meeting the world, developing activities, that's what a healthy person does. And so she set up a great plan, and that was to visit all these these groups and learn what they have in the way of activities. And so that's what happened. She came to the meeting and I greeted her. Now I got to tell you why I greeted her. She looked gorgeous. This was a good-looking woman. All the other women in that group looked like my baba, my grandma. And believe me, I love my grandmother. She taught me a lot about love, and she probably taught me the most. But the truth is, I really don't want to be married to someone who looks like my grandmother. She was short, fat, plump, kind of European Jewish looking. And Marion was very attractive, had a great personality, and was smart. So I liked what I saw. She mentioned something very important here, and that is that after I got up enough nerve to give her a kiss in the parking lot, because I wasn't very experienced. After 53 years of being married to someone else, you don't go out and start kissing all the women in the parking lot. That's not only dangerous, that's just not our style. I think that a lot of women, especially women more than men, feel guilty in that they are being disloyal to their dead spouse. Women more than men. And I think that's just part of working through the grief process. But that's a principle we have to remember, that does exist. Well, there's one other thing that I've heard about in my practice, and especially with women, they have a group that they and her husband attend. And then when the husband dies, a lot of women get expelled from the group. And that is really heartbreaking and it's really awful. And I think that you want to be very, very careful and know that that's a possibility. It very well could be that many other women in that group are fearful that you're going to come and steal their husbands, which is, in the middle of grief, you're not about to steal anyone. So you've got to make sure that your friends are loyal. And Marion had a lot of loyal friends because her friends have now become my friends. And in order to keep these friends, I had to take up golf. I did not know how to play golf. In fact, I had given my golf clubs to my son, and now I had to go out. So I got really smart. I went and took lessons. And I can tell you, after 2 years of taking lessons and practicing, I can play as good as any of the women in our group. And that's kind of fun because now I get to go every Sunday and play golf. Well, as long as we're talking about me, I will tell you that before moving to the villages in 2015, I had a great life. I had served in the United States Air Force for 23 years. I rose to the rank of lieutenant colonel, and I considered every day of my military career a new adventure because I did things that no other social worker could do, be it war or the aftermaths of war, moving orphans. I had a great life, and I just loved being in the Air Force. After I retired, I took my wife and 2 children, and we moved to Hawaii. I accepted a job as a professor at the University of Hawaii, and the prestige and all was fun, and I had great adventures at UH. Then we moved back to the mainland. My wife wanted she knew something was up, but she wouldn't tell me, and I think she knew she was going to die. So she wanted us to be closer to our daughter, who was in Washington, D.C. My daughter was working at the Pentagon and then became the associate dean of the National Intelligence University in D.C. So we wanted to be closer to her. At least my wife did. I would have been very happy to stay in Hawaii. We moved here, and 6 months later, she got sick, and 10 months later, she passed away. So there I am all by myself. It took me about a year or so to recover. A principle here is you don't know how really dull or cloudy your brain is after you lose a loved one. I didn't know. I thought I was in pretty good shape. But when I couldn't figure out some paperwork to put finances in order, and I had to call my son to come help me out, that's when I look back and realized that I had about a year of brain fog, and it was not easy. So the principle is really very simple, gang. You've got to help people who are in the first year of grief to not do anything. I know of a guy who, well, actually, I know of 2 people. One guy, he got married something like 15 weeks after his wife died. That something is wrong there. And another person went ahead and started redecorating their house and doing all kinds of things to it, putting money into it that was probably not the best thing he could have done. So you're in a brain fog. Okay, that's how it is. And don't make any major decisions, at least for the first year. So when I met Marion, I had my year of recovery, and in walks this really nice, this very intelligent, nice looking woman who did not look like my grandmother. And as I got to know her, I found that she had values that I liked, and values that were mine, and that's good. Politics, same thinking. And I think that the second most important thing is she liked my dog. She liked Honey Dog. And it's love me, you love, if you don't love my dog, you forget about it. I don't want you. And that's what I learned. In fact, when I had my shoulder, I had a shoulder replacement. She took care of Honey Dog for those 2 months while I was recovering. And she'll tell you more about her perception of what it is to have a dog. But I tell you, I lucked out there. I found that in dating that I did have a few dates that some good friends set me up with, but it just wasn't meant to be. But I found, though, that I was a desirable commodity. I had two things that the ladies liked. First of all, they liked my hair. It's all mine. The second thing they liked is that I could drive at night. That's very important. I could drive at night. And there were a few bullets that I dodged, but the principle here is that when you find your true love the second time around, you'll find that he or she is not only the person that you want to be with, but the person you can't live without. There's one other thing I'm going to share with you before we go to the group session here. And this is strictly mine. I didn't find it anywhere except in my experiences, and I call these deal breakers in any potential love relationship. So let me tell you what I found out to be deal breakers. If he or she asks for money, be it a gift or a loan, that's a deal breaker. They're not after you, they're after your money. Drinks too much, gets drunk in your presence, or brags about his or her use of alcohol. Deal breaker. Drinking will only get worse. Uses illegal substances, including soft and hard drugs. You don't want to play around with that situation. Dominates every conversation and otherwise tries to control you. Ooh, that's a bad one. Get out of there. And tries to isolate you from your family and friends. That's also a deal breaker. Oh, and seems to be a perfect person. There is no such thing as a perfect person, especially a perfect person in grief. We just don't exist. Con men and women can look that way because that's what they do. Be very careful about that. Seems to be too religious for your taste. Okay? It's really tough to live with a Bible thumper if you're not one. Is an angry person not a good match? Has ever hit you or threatened to do so? That's a deal breaker. Tells lies or exaggerates. You don't want that person. And last but not least, has bad personal hygiene. Doesn't wash their hands, for instance. Tries to rope you. Well, roping is one thing, but with dirty hands is something else. So the rule is, in general, don't try to change your prospective partner. Accept them just as they are. Anything else is unfair and probably won't work for you in the long run. So don't allow any deal-breaking behaviors into your life. Now, one other thing I've discovered. If you still like the excitement of a bad boy or a bad girl, grow up and find someone stable and nice. And just remember, your parents are dead and you no longer have to make them upset. Well, if you can put the people back on, maybe Marion would like to make some some principles or thoughts. And thank you very much for listening to me.
Well, for one thing, when I first was dating Jim, the bonus was honey dog. I always had dogs and I didn't at the time. And I so enjoyed her. It meant a great deal to me that he had a dog. Oh boy, bring your dog over. But anyway,
Love me, love my dog.
love me, love my dog. Yes, yes,
In
yes.
fact, Marion bought a sign that says that, and she put it.
Yeah. But I feel that Jim and I are very, very fortunate that we have met each other and plan on spending the rest of our time together. It's not easy being alone by yourself after being with a spouse for so many years, and it's a difficult time. Uh, why we met, I don't know. I call it fate. But we're extremely happy being with each other and enjoy every day.
Speaking about enjoying every day,
Yes,
in
yes,
2 days, I'll be 87,
yes.
and I don't have a lot of time left. I've been gifted with good energy. My sister is going on 94 and still climbs stairs. I have to make every day count. With Marion, it's I just lose any days that I want to be grouchy. I lose days when things don't go right and my attitude is bad. So I try and keep a good attitude. And I am so blessed. I mean, I have met the best woman that I could have met, and I treasure her.